I personally favor magical gene splicing and blood magic, but the prospect of dragon-human porn gets me excited.
Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and the greens, 'cause Emma Aaron didn't have a son. Now the swords will flash and the togs will clash to the echo of a dragon song. Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and...
Hello and welcome to Vassals of Kingsgrave. Today we are here to review the finale episode of House of the Dragon Season 1. We will be spoiling anything from George R.R. Martin's work. However, we will not be spoiling anything from Game of Thrones whenever it diverged from the books. I am one of the four lovely hosts today. I am Zander, also known as the Lord Baron, and I am joined by Elle.
Hi, Elle. Nettles on the Discord.
And Michael.
Hey, Khal Wadege on the Discord.
And last but not least, Sara.
Hey, it's Sara, aka DrBlood.
All right. Let us start with lemon cake ratings.
5 out of 5. Really love the episode. I love pretty much being on Dragonstone the entire episode. I felt like I was there. The mood was fantastic. Just the feeling was really, really fantastic. I found Rhaenyra's crowning pretty emotional, more emotional than I thought I would. I definitely had some issues and some negatives, but all in all, it was a really great way to end a season.
I would give it 4.75 out of 5. I have, lots of praise for this episode and for the season in general, that they really just knocked it out of the park and really exceeded my expectations. I enjoyed the character drama that we saw here. I really enjoyed the dragon action, like I'm sure everyone else did, and I just thought it was great. Maybe I'll deduct 0.25 off for a few of the nice one-liners that I know we could have had said, but were not said.
Yeah, I think I'm with Michael on this one. I'm gonna do 4.75. I thought I was gonna be 5 out of 5, finish strong, but I just finished strong. Oh. Yeah, I don't know. There were just some spots in this episode that I felt like didn't click or like didn't make sense for me in ways that kind of took me out of the action. So I'm looking forward to talking about those with you guys and seeing if maybe I can make a little more sense of them. Yeah, overall, same. This season was absolutely astonishingly good. I am beyond devastated that we have to wait till 2024 to get more. So
Really, 2024? I did not realize that. I probably should have. I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 lemon cakes or Amon Sapphire Ice, whichever. The entire season has just been really great. Long prologue to the dance that officially started, obviously, with the end of this episode. I do want to share something I said to Bina yesterday in terms of like it being an adaptation of George's work, because I didn't watch all of Game of Thrones, in describing like changes between book and show, especially because this is just a histories. I said it's all sung by different bards, and it's all songs sung by different bards, and this particular one sings sweetly. So that's pretty much just my overall thought of the season as a whole.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So we have decided that we are going to go chronologically for this recap. The show opens with a very heartfelt conversation between Rhaenyra and her son Luke. He sort of seems to be thinking in the same vein that he was at the funeral, where, you know, if he's Lord of Driftmark, then everybody's dead. But she comforts him and says that she too was unprepared at first, and then Viserys prepared her to rule. Rhaenys arrives with the news of the king's death and Aegon's coronation. Rhaenyra starts feeling pain that signals her impending miscarriage. While Rhaenyra is in labor, Daemon begins to strategize and sort of try and get ahead of the conflict that he is sure is coming.
I liked the actor who plays Luke. He's done a good job with the little screen time he's gotten so far. And I particularly like the dynamic between Jace and Luke, where both of them have sort of, as they're going through puberty, realizing who their parents may or may not be, they seem to have responded differently. Like Jace is doubling down on his attempts to be kingly, Luke is sort of doubting himself. I just think it's a nice dynamic.
I feel like you could really tell that, and I don't know if it was really outlined expressly in the book, but yeah, Luke is Rhaenyra's favorite kid. It just felt super duper. She took a mother face off, a queen's face off, that mask when she was talking to Luke and just really connected with them. And that definitely says something for the acting. The whole time I was like, you're not supposed to have favorites, but Rhaenyra, I think you have a favorite. And it was really beautiful, whether that's true or not. I knew that the miscarriage scene was going, well, it was going to happen, obviously. I just wasn't sure putting my bets on they were going to show it so explicitly, considering we've already had it happen before.
I totally agree, Elle, about the relationship acting in this show, and I think it's true for a lot of the pairs that we've seen, especially Rhaenyra and Daemon as well. Like the room, you sort of get the sense that like the room clears when they make eye contact, right? And there's nobody in the room except the two of them, and I got the same depth of feeling from from her communications with Lucerys, and it's something that we see in the episode where they get in the fight with Aemon as well. That he's kind of half behind her, and she's like stroking his hand or his arm and making this kind of comforting physical contact with him. That we see also when she a little bit later in this episode when she dispatches him to Storm's End too. There's like this touch on his hand that is so maternal and so loving and so subtle, but carries so much meaning in it. And I think that all of those moments have just been so well done in this show.
Really got to give it to all these kid actors they got, honestly.
Yeah, they say don't work with animals or children, but they must have done a lot of casting.
Yeah. I mean, I think we learned why not with animals, right? What did you guys think about how Rhaenys was portrayed in this episode, especially after the sort of firestorm that happened with the last scene from the last episode where she chose not to torch the greens?
I enjoyed the ambiguity that she was given out, particularly when they get to that scene where everyone's kneeling and she specifically does not kneel. I just enjoyed that as a contrast to what we see in the books, where she's just like, yeah, I'm Team Black, whatever. I don't have that much personality. But I really enjoy. I think it's Eve Best's performance to Rhaenys and the way she's dealing with Rhaenyra, sort of having some affection, but also withholding a certain part of herself.
It was such a conscious, like confident, and ambiguity with just I'm not kneeling. I'm really not sure what's gonna happen, one way or the other, where she's gonna lean. But you knew she felt it. You knew like how sure she was in that seesaw, and like I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I think I really contribute that to Eve Best as well, and how she played Rhaenys. I really couldn't think of a better one. Really, she really embodied everything that I thought about how Rhaenys was in the books and what I wanted to see if I ever saw Rhaenys in live action. And it was great.
I think her performance is so strong and so nuanced that in that exchange that she has with Corlys, it's possible to completely re-understand her stance and her behavior in all of these other scenes that happen earlier, right? That I think like there's an element of uncertainty and fear even that she has been dealing with without Corlys there to kind of bounce ideas off of or come to a consensus. And I wouldn't have said that watching her in the episodes leading up to this, but then sort of knowing that that's how she was feeling, I think you can certainly see like in the Godswood when she's considering Rhaenyra's proposal, she just seems sort of cold and aloof, but like I think that there's like a reservation out of almost like self-preservation that's happening. You can see sort of in retrospect, which is so awesome that you can get more nuance like out of old scenes from the new information that we got.
I will say it really helps her as a character, how the show kind of made her. She was always loyal to Viserys, but kind of like how you were just saying, she had that almost coldish or standoffish nature towards it, and it isn't until a little bit later where Corlys comes and then she is in full support, because as her and Corlys are trying to preserve their own legacy as well as what they may or may not perceive as the rightful cause or heir, I guess.
I think she's very conscious of not making other people's decisions or not making decisions on other people's behalf. So like I felt like she wasn't comfortable deciding Driftmark without Corlys, and she wasn't comfortable, flambeing the greens without I'm so glad they addressed. I'm so glad they spelled that out because it was clear for me, at least, like that was her thinking. But there was so much backlash on that scene, and I just, I don't know. I was glad that they were like, okay, let me like spell this out for you. And I know obviously like it was filmed long before the reactions happened, but I think it's a testament to the writers that they they anticipated it enough to like build in a question and a justification for that very striking scene.
They've shown foresight for a couple of scenes like that, like capping out the episode ends and then addressing it in the next episode. So yeah, good on them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so after Rhaenyra gives birth to her child, after sympathy labor from Syrax, she prepares the baby for burial herself with the Silent Sisters looking on in the background, which I found very striking. And then they have a Targaryen funeral by fire. The court is gathered, and Sir Eric, thank God for the Watchers on the Wall summary, because for me it was just one of, Beard 1 and Beard 2. But it is Sir Eric, I can happily confirm that. Arrives from King's Landing with Viserys' crown, and Rhaenyra has sort of an impromptu coronation, at the backdrop of her child's funeral, which kicks the planning efforts into high gear, including the light up table, which I thought was so cool. We get a counteroffer from Otto on the bridge in the same setting where we saw the confrontation with the egg at the beginning of the season, which I thought was cool. And yeah, Rhaenys and Corlys have a reunion, and Corlys joins the council to give his contribution to their planning efforts. So I think maybe we can pause there and get some thoughts.
Real quick before we get into like the coronation and war council and everything, am I misremembering, or was that stillborn supposed to have scales and a tail nub?
It was.
Yes.
Yeah. This summary.
And I was kind of hoping for that, but I also know that like maybe that's going a little too far if it's like a dragon deformed monster.
That's a Targaryen like trait. I mean, it's a established, even with Dany,
it
right?
Would have
Well,
been.
and it makes sense too, like you said, with the sympathy birth pains.
I really thought that was a cool touch. I can see where, it might have seemed kind of indulgent or flashy or whatever, but on one hand, I think it highlighted for me like how her dragon nature really comes out most when her children are involved. So she's kind of like, the next level up from a mama bear. She's a mama dragon, especially because Syrax is the one I think who's producing all the eggs right now. So she has this kind of like maternal link to her. And then, I mean, I think it's also like really good foreshadowing for what happens at Storm's End, unfortunately. But just that shared emotion that we've sort of gotten hints of, but I think this was like the most sort of in your face example of it. I don't know. I thought maybe the baby's skull was a little bit deformed, but she also like yanked it real hard when she was pulling it out. So I was not really clear on how far they intended for that to read.
Watchers on the Wall says that it was disfigured, but I couldn't make out really. It was maybe the skull thing, like you mentioned, Sarah. But
I mean, because they showed its foot, and it was, I thought, pretty explicitly perfectly formed, right? That the sort of emotional impact of it was like, oh my God, this baby was going to be perfect. And then, I mean, maybe the horror from the midwives was meant to read deformity or some kind of monstrosity. Yeah, Zander is saying in the chat that he thought it was the umbilical cord wrapped around the neck, and I also thought that and believed that was what they had.
Right, yeah, because I was anticipating like, I don't know, maybe not like a dragonkin, but like, I don't know, like scarred face with scales or something,
or a tail even. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
they checked.
Tail would have been nice.
Fun fact. Like before you get discharged from the hospital, the nurse does this like very surreptitious tail check, and I'm like, did you just check the baby for a tail? She's like, I am not supposed to say that, but yes, we did. I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, so not a Targaryen. In the council, they do the dragon math, right? And Daemon has turned into a dragon farmer. Like he's got
this many eggs, this many wild dragons, and I was shocked that they said there's 3 wild dragons because you could. Sheep stealer to me is the only essential one. The other 2, if you're a bean counter and you want less dragon CG, you just say let's get rid of those other 2. But they're dedicated. They're following through.
Or you could combine. That's what I was expecting. Is that
Cannibal,
you,
Grey
would
Ghost.
be combined into like one asshole.
Gray cannibal, maybe. Gray cannibal. They want to do that.
Maybe, yeah, that might be. Yeah. I really loved the like we've been talking sort of about the set design and stuff all through, and the props and things like that. And I loved the like the light up table just kind of blew me away a little bit, but also
It's so amazing.
so yeah, right. Like, but I love that they had like boxes of sigil power. They're like, all right, break out the
Boxes
war
and
boxes.
boxes.
And they're like opening up these boxes of like ready made, which I think was a question earlier in the season actually when they used those little sigil chess pieces for her selection of the Kingsguard. And we're like, did they carve those? Like, how did they know? But apparently they just have like boxes full of them in the castle basement, and they just like pull them out as needed, which I thought was a cool detail.
Well, I feel like that would just be like something left over from the Conqueror. When he had the table made, he made a bunch of pieces, so we would have a set in King's Landing too.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That table was glorious. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I was a little
Yeah,
worried
all I
about
could
like
think
how
of-
much fire they had underneath it. Like that seemed a little bit like a hazard, but it was really cool. Yeah,
Just use LED, guys.
I know, right?
Definitely a glow
Think
up.
of the replicas.
For
Like you could
sure.
sell an LED lit table, and that's gonna sell like crazy.
Oh my
Like,
god, are you kidding me?
I would buy it. I would
Nice.
buy it.
Same.
I think
Easy.
Vok would have to like pool our resources and just buy one and ship it around.
Put it in the Vok Castle.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when we get our Vok homestead, that can be the centerpiece. I wanted to hear what you guys thought about Allison's offer, and just either knowing what we know or only knowing what they know at this point. Do you think that first of all that it was a fair offer, and second of all that Rhaenyra should have taken it? And just to sort of recap, she was confirmed in possession of Dragonstone, with Luke as the heir. What were the other? Oh, like high positions at court for her other children. Daemon says he would rather feed his kids to a dragon than have them serve at court, which was clearly his take on it. What were the other?
Well, wouldn't just Rhaenyra and her family inherit Dragonstone and Driftmark?
Driftmark, yeah.
And then just the younger kids, would be cupbearers, which is we all know that's code word.
Hostages.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of like just a stopgap. Like the black faction still has a considerable power base that they could use at any time if they wish to. I guess the children would be hostages, but it doesn't strike me as a proper diffusing of the situation.
Neither for me. When it was proposed, all I could think about was, of course, things that haven't happened in the show, but further on, right at the end of the dance, and the Green Council is trying to discuss and what to do about the Valerians and the Starks and the Riverlands, and what to do with Aegon. And Aegon the Elder is very much, he can go to the wall, or I can cut his balls off. One or the other. And it's what's to keep him from doing that immediately or later on down the line when they come of age, if they're there as hostages. I'm sorry, cupbearers and squires.
Yeah, you don't really get the sense that they would be like safe at all to you. I don't know. I'm coming back to Daemon's characterization, and I wonder if he would even have let her take it, or whether he would have just turned on her for accepting it. Which kind of.
I feel he would have.
Yeah.
Might not have turned on Rhaenyra specifically, but just got on Caraxes and gone to King's Landing for a fire Armageddon showdown.
Yeah.
One-man show.
Yeah, I thought her Kingdom of Ash and Bone line was so evocative of like where her head is. And I had initially, when she said to Jace that Viserys prepared her for rule, had called bullshit on it, because like we never saw that, and they had erased so much of the Realm's Delight where he actually was preparing her to rule. And I don't know, her response to this was so measured, without being feeble, I thought. I don't know, it sort of was a more admirable reflection of him than I was expecting from her, which was kind of cool, I thought.
That's also a nice thing to say to bolster the confidence of your 14-year-old child that, oh, yeah, 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 Viserys was this great, awesome dad. He had no failings whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, that's
Just
true.
as you don't have any failings, Lucerys.
Yeah. Oh, the little boy thinking that his mom was perfect.
I feel like the ash and bone comment and just her reaction into everything and how she was so steadfast in that kind of naive in a way, or just really wholly unprepared with what actually happened with Storm's End response. And again, Sarah, the total erasing of the realm's delight as well, I think really harmed it in a sense that that's exactly how she's coming up, kind of almost like, well, my father, they swore a vow, the King's Landing loves me, I'm the realm's delight. Like, she had this confidence is in, like, I'm gonna get backed up so hard because of
Mhm.
this.
Yeah. Whereas in this iteration, I have no real understanding, like true understanding of why she thought that Baratheon would be so easily called. Like,
The way they're kind of framing both her and Alicent too is kind of just the whirlwind of men around them. You see as soon as they light the painted table, everybody around Queen Rhaenyra, immediately talking over her like, oh, let's do this, we got to do this, send that, go do this, and she's just like, what the fuck are you guys doing? The same way when Alicent told the council that the king has died, they're like, all right, we got those plans in motion, right? All right, we're gonna go ahead with this plan then. Okay, cool. And she's like, what, you guys had plans without telling me? It's kind of that same, the female ruler is still only, I don't know, half,
or a
yeah,
Caught in the
whatever.
current.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that. I really do, and I think that the fact that everything kicked off when she was in labor is such a sort of powerful reminder of that, where she was like incapacitated in this very specific way.
And doesn't Rhaenys, I guess when she's talking to Corlys, mentions that she's surrounded by all of these men and she's kind of still keeping it together.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think if I existed in the same world as Rhaenys, I would desperately crave her approval at every turn. She's so cool and she's so strong and she's so, I don't know. I wish, yeah.
She just stands there, says nothing, and you're like, I trust this woman with my life.
Yeah, I definitely want to be her when I grow up.
They've done a real good job making you think of that scenario of what if she was queen? How much better would the realm be?
Oh my God. So
Just
much
from her
better.
presence.
I honestly think she might have been a very worthy successor to Jaehaerys the Wise.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. My only qualm on that is like how much Corlys would have gotten up in her junk. Like whether if he respected her ability to rule, which is clearly like evident that she has it. I don't know how much he would have been able to like. Although he does always say that he wasn't for her, but
he wasn't a Targaryen though, so he would only be Dowager King. He wouldn't be on a level of her power, so she could always, were she the queen, kind of stomp him out.
Yeah,
I would
like
think.
consort. Yeah, that's true. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe he's just this way because he like came up struggling. Like he's been playing this game with this very specific aim in mind, and that aim would have been removed from the equation if she had actually been chosen as queen. So maybe like he would have just been a lot more chill than he ended up being.
If he didn't marry a Targaryen, he would have just been Errol Flynn.
Definitely
We've
think
seen Corlys as a character be denied, but we've never seen him be like satisfied.
Yeah. He seemed very like at peace with his plan that he outlined about the gullet and having secured the stepstones in a way that that they didn't before. And I mean that gave me pause too, because first of all, like, why the fuck didn't you do it before? And second of all, like a little bit of shade on Daemon, right, for kind of just like taking the little stick crown and just fucking off instead of like establishing any kind of foothold, which led to like a whole second war. Yeah, he seemed a lot more measured and content. Even maybe I'm not sure.
Certainly the closest he's been to being happy or stable.
Oh, not dying will do that to you, I guess. Like surviving the unsurvivable.
Humbled them real quick.
Yeah. So, okay. Should we talk about Daemon? Is this Daemon time?
Yeah, I think it's a good time to start that.
All right.
What the fuck?
He does a literal power grab.
Right?
Oh my
Literal.
God. Oh,
That was such a cheap, like hackney. Oh, I don't know.
clumsy.
Clumsy. Yes, that's such a good way. Yeah, yeah. And like, just okay. I can't. I'm gonna gather my. All right, you guys go.
I don't know if
I-
it's a, hey guys, we've checked the internet and there's too much toxic Daemon love, kind of going around. They're calling him a feminist. What are we gonna do about it?
But they can't have adapted, right? I mean, like I know they were cutting scenes that were unexpected, but like they can't have like refilmed a thing like let's make him more of a dick. I don't know. Like I feel like it was in there in the beginning and I just don't it felt like a shock value moment for me and I do not appreciate that at
That's
all.
making zero sense. I mean, that made no sense in the. Uh, let's just say that is something that he was known to do. There wasn't even like a escalating kind of fight where you get this rage and
Mhm.
you expect somebody to lose it and do something physical. It made zero sense.
I think it was almost like a twofold effort on the writer's part to both show not only just how crappy he can be later on, which it almost feels like, I'm sure we'll get into this a little later. I feel like Blood and Cheese is gonna damn near open the next season.
It might even be
But
like
Yes.
pre-credit.
right,
Like,
right. But I
Episode
also
1.
think, oh my god, that'd be a hell of a season opener.
it's the new C-section. Yeah.
I I think it's also just to show that his insecurity will always get the better of him no matter what.
I will accept that. I feel like
I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying I think that's just the writer's attempt to show those two facets of the character.
In a poor manner.
I feel like even not the act itself, but the reaction to it, both his and hers, felt so untrue to both of the characters. Like in a moment of rage directed against Rhaenyra, I feel like he would immediately have, if not apologized, like
Stormed off.
angry at himself or something. You know what I mean? Like that there was some registering that like this was not what he intended or this was not where he expected this to go. But he was just like, "Yep, I'm gonna choke you. All right, see you later." Like it was just I don't know. And then she had no, and I mean, sort of understandably, like she may have been in shock from it, but I don't know. It just felt so. It felt like an opportunity that they set up that could have been shocking and then paid off in a character way that we have seen some of the other moments pay off, and it just did not. And I found that so incredibly distressing.
I mean, it's a consequence of the prophecy being kind of sloppily put into the narrative, I think.
That's a good, yeah. So was he
Yes.
was he reacting to her mentioning the prophecy, her not having told him
Well,
the prophecy?
yeah, that's what I meant when I said it like highlights his insecurity getting the better of him, is because it's a counsel his brother never bequeathed the secret to him.
But he got mad before she could even explain what she was talking about. She was like, Aegon's dream. And then he was like, I'm going to choke you. And I'm like, but that's not, he can't, if he didn't know about it already, he can't have understood from what she was saying enough to be that angry about it.
So maybe he was just frustrated with my brother was a slave to dreams and that's just something that set him off.
Maybe he thinks it is his brother's weakness.
Yeah, right.
I would just say it's a culmination of his anger that Rhaenyra is even considering these peace terms, and that snaps him or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. Can
maybe
see that.
like that she's trying to justify it with what sounds like nonsense.
And it's all it's
still I get it.
Yeah, no, it's not it's not good because it violates like one thing they've been pretty consistent about is that Daemon is loyal to his family. There are lines he doesn't cross with his family, and I don't want to say like I don't want to be arguing, oh, he's not the type of person to abuse his spouse, because we've seen him do that.
He's a certain terms and conditions apply kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I think on some level, like he, especially with her, sort of quote unquote proposal to him about how they're both made of fire and they're meant to burn together. Like, I can see where he was feeling sort of betrayed by his hopes for her in that moment, or the hopes of what they would become together. I think the hesitation with him putting the crown on her head and this too, like, I don't think that he is in any way considering like taking the throne for himself. I didn't read that. I don't see that. I don't agree with it if that's really what they're going for, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've never gotten that read at all from anything we've seen with the character so far.
And it would have been nice in the post show, talk about that they could have addressed that, maybe.
Yeah, although maybe they learned that stirs more shit than it. Like,
God, I don't even watch those
I don't either.
anymore. I just find them
No, I
infuriating.
refuse to.
Because I was just like, no, they're gonna explain that. I'm gonna watch it. They're gonna explain this.
They address that
And
at all?
nope, like
Okay.
it never even happened.
Awesome. Oh, I did just want to say though, there was a part of me that thought maybe he had found prophecy in his Pentos books, like because he was doing such a deep dive into Targaryen history. They made such a point of it on a couple different occasions. And I wondered that, or if he reacted so strongly precisely because he recognized what she was getting at and was enraged that she had never told him, nor had Viserys ever told him that was like a guiding principle in what they were doing. But that was another outside possibility that occurred to me.
I could see that as only for an excuse of why he's so obsessed with dragons and dragon eggs.
It's a possibility, but I think prophecy makes all character motivations less interesting unless it's Aegon the First.
Yeah. It did feel like another place where they wanted to do a hard pivot, and so they used the prophecy as like the fulcrum on which to do that, which seems like it's getting a little bit repetitive at this point. But okay, so after the war council, they feel like they have a plan, but Rhaenyra does not want to send her forces to war before she knows who they are. So she sends Jace to first to the Vale of Arryn, and then to treat with Cregan Stark at Winterfell. And then she sends Luke to Boris Baratheon at Storm's End, thinking that the closer destination and the short flight and their familial connections would make this the safer of the two trips. She makes them promise to be there only as envoys and not as warriors. Meanwhile, Daemon is wandering around in a dark catacomb, singing to himself in High Valyrian, and comes upon Vermithor, who is King Jaehaerys I's former mount. The words to the song have been published, the translation, and they're really fascinating. I don't know if we want to like talk about them specifically, but if anybody's listening and hasn't seen them yet, definitely look them up. Luke flies to Storm's End. Everything kind of goes to shit. So
just backtrack, going back to Otto on Dragonstone. Do you guys think that maybe a smarter decision or something she should have done? What about taking Otto hostage? How do you guys think that would have worked out?
Oh, that would have been so dope. I totally should have done that.
That would probably escalate to immediate war.
Well, they have 13
It's violating
dragons.
terms of how you're meant to treat messengers, I would say.
Honored guest.
She took his pin and
He's
threw
not a
it. She wasn't
guest.
exactly like...
But you see like in this episode the special privilege that they give to messengers of war, or just messengers in general. They're supposed to have safe conduct, and if you violate this, then you're violating. It's not the guest right. It's not kinslaying, but it is a taboo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
Don't make hostages of the messenger. That's the common phrase, you know?
Yeah.
That's it after Daemon.
Don't kill the messenger. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Daemon beat the shit out of a messenger earlier, and I feel like we should put a profanity.
Oh,
warning.
yeah, but that was just a
Warning.
foot soldier. Who the fuck cares?
Naughty language. Yeah, I hadn't really, and yeah, we kind of, I got a little bit hung up on the dragon stuff. So we got, yeah, I thought the page from their childhood book was a little bit of a bitch move on Allison's part. Like, I get where it was coming from, but it was like
so awful.
I know. It's just like I'm gonna try like aggressive emotional manipulation. Like I don't know.
Hey, I know a war is coming between our families, but like,
Remember when
See
we
ya.
read that incredibly valuable manuscript? Lulz. Like yeah, I don't know. Oh shit, sorry. Yeah, I like book defacing as a common ground. Feels like
Hey,
Like,
hey, remember we were kids and we ripped this out and we said, fuck the Septas. Yeah.
yeah, fuck the septas. Oh, also, I'm a religious extremist now, so I can't really get on board with that. But yeah, let's be friends again. Like, yeah, I don't know. It felt like a really cheap shot.
It infuriated me, as I'm sure it infuriated Rhaenyra.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she seemed to have like a moment of. I bet Otto felt like it was. She handed it to him, and he was like, "Ugh, I will give this to her if I absolutely have to." And then he was like, "Oh gosh, stupid."
Well, he did it as a last
I
choice.
know. You know, he's
He
like,
made his vocal terms, you know.
yeah. I don't know. I also felt like it was a little bit of a sad callback to whatever letter Aegon gets. That has vexed us for so long that makes him like withdraw from Dorne. Like fly off to Dragonstone and stuff. But like, maybe it was a page that he ripped with Hellholt folks when he was 12 or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Like, also catch Kristen Cole pulling his sword out like a good minute before anybody else did, because fuck that guy. He took guy so much. Spoiling for a fight.
It really was just ready.
So Daemon and Vermithor. Do we have any thoughts on?
Yes, Vermithor.
Do we have any thoughts on that? Which my phone keeps desperately trying to autocorrect to Vermouth, which, while hilarious, is also extremely annoying. So like,
Yeah,
So this is a minor point.
That was Vermithor?
But
Like right away?
we've seen 10 dragons now this season, when they said there was only going to be 9. I hope someone got fired for that blunder.
hey, who's off with their
No,
heads?
gaslighting me into thinking there's less. I want more
Who are the-
dragons, so definitely
I'm not
lie.
complaining, but I spent a good amount of time speculating which 9 it would be precisely,
Yeah.
and then they just show Vermithor like that, like they're teasing me and all the time I wasted.
To honor your time well spent, Michael, will you list the 9 that you thought we were going to see? Was Vermithor not on
Oh, I
that
better
list?
be able to now.
Oh, wow.
Whew. Okay, let's go. Syrax, Caraxes, Sea Smoke, Vagar, Sunfire, Dreamfire, Vermax, Arax, and Melis the Red Queen.
Is that 9?
That was 9.
Wow.
Yeah, that's 9.
That was
So
really impressive.
I think the only one we didn't see is Sunfire and Dreamfire.
And we saw them flying back from
Oh,
the
that's
funeral.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I remember now.
Just a little
Smart, yeah.
tail view.
Yeah, just little, seagulls on the sunset.
Next to the behemoth. My feeling about Daemon in this episode, and I hope that I'm not just tinfoiling to make myself feel better. My feeling coming out of this one, including his otherwise unprovoked domestic violence, is that he sees himself, and I think in many ways he truly is the last real Targaryen, that he knows their histories. He knows, and there was a moment where Rhaenyra was like, yeah, I've read the histories too. And I'm like, but have you though? Like the way that he has, and the language, and
Well, she specifically said her father told her about it.
right.
So she knows them well, and that's when he's like, seriously? I read them in Old Valyrian.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
what do you mean?
I've read them in the original Latin.
Your dad told you bedtime stories.
Yeah, but so like I really do believe that, and I think that the sort of very unfortunate series of events that happens later like kind of reinforces this, that everyone except him. I feel like up until this point, maybe Rhaenyra, but I think that in that moment he saw that this was true of her as well, is just playing at being Targaryen. And I think it goes back to something that Bina has brought up a few times, and that's the sort of Westerosiing of the Targaryens, and like whether you're going to be a true dragon in blood and spirit, or whether there's a kind of waffling that happens that kind of dilutes that thing. And we see that when she has, she explicitly says like, well, they say Targaryens are closer to gods, but like, let's swear on the 7 just because when in Westeros, do as the Westerosi do. And that just struck me as such a like repudiation of things like their super old school Valerian marriage ceremony and the things that they seemed like they had very much in common. And I think he is moving more towards that pure dragon essence, whereas she potentially is moving further away from it. And I think that might be one of the sources of their conflict later. TLDR, like I think he's the only true Targaryen that we see, and that everybody else is just playing at being Targaryen. They're just cosplaying as Targaryens.
Yeah, sounds. I agree.
Certainly there was no one like him afterwards, that's for sure.
I feel like
I would also bring up the idea that a true Targaryen, in its truest sense, might not be the ideal ruler of Westeros. When you look at, like, Viserys is on the other end of the spectrum with his stupid Valyria Lego set, and Rhaenyra is somewhere in the middle with the potential to be the threading of the needle in the same way that Aegon and Jaehaerys were, potentially the right fit as the ruler of Westeros. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
yeah.
I will say the Conqueror would approve of what Rhaenyra says to Luke and Jace, that we're akin closer to gods than men, but when dealing with men, you gotta abide by their rules and gods.
Jaehaerys too, I think, would say something similar. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think though that they both maintained the first part of that aphorism a lot more, sort of they internalized it a lot better than I feel like Rhaenyra has or is, and certainly better than Viserys did, where I really don't like. I mean, we saw the altercation in the throne room between Daemon and Viserys when he was asking for Rhaenyra when she was young, and that idea that like you are a dragon, you make the rules, you say what's true, and Viserys like couldn't process that. Like that wasn't even within his realm of understanding. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Daemon really does, and it's kind of cool that his name is Daemon. If this is really the kind of perspective that he's coming from, because it means like right, like divinity, basically. But yeah, that like he's not even thinking about it. I think at this point, he just like believes that he is he's like operating on a different level. Which like yeah, him going up just eye to eye with this massive dragon, and literally their eyes like mirroring each other, I thought was so cool, and I think it's such a I think it's a cool direction to take his character if that's what they're really doing, and I hope that I'm not like deluding myself to kind of make up for the but I hope that
No, I agree with you. I agree with you absolutely, Sarah. There's like a
Yeah,
sense of he was born in the wrong generation. He's a Renaissance man for Valyria.
Yep.
yeah, he's got more demon worms in him than the other ones do.
I just do want to ask what is his intention with coming down and singing to Vermithor? Like, is he planning to try and have a second dragon?
I think he's seeing the brood that he might not have seen for a while and sizing up their potentiality for dragon seeds. Maybe that's reaching a bit too far, but he's just sort of being like, are these usable quantities that I think they are?
It felt very recruitment-like. Like, I want to recruit you for me, Thor.
Raise him from the depths, awaken him from his slumber.
Summoning him.
He's just checking their teeth and everything.
Exactly. Make sure they've got their legs and wings and tails in order.
How you doing? You still healthy?
But like the fact that he was singing, I didn't realize it was him singing at first, which kind of like threw me. And I thought maybe he was just going to visit some old crazy dragon, like, the ghost of High Heart, but underground with the dragons. So I kind of had to like catch up a little bit as to what was actually happening. But yeah, the words of the song reference like the dragon has to have 3 heads, and 2 of the heads are singing to you. The 3rd head, the fire breather. We have to be united, 3 as 1. Blood magic has been paid, like the price has been paid in blood magic, and basically like let's do this shit. Like.
Okay, so what's head number 3?
What?
What's the 3rd head?
No.
No.
Zander thinks it's a penis.
No. This is my thing. So I know this is show continuity, but if they are using some things that George might actually end up using, I honestly think with his writing, it's all sex and swordplay. So why would dragon and dragon riders not be sex and spell play? Why would the 3 heads not be the 2 heads, like the dragon head, the rider head, and then the 2 parties' genitals? Because how else can you be more akin to gods than men if you don't literally
Do you think to ride
have
a
a
dragon
bloodline
first
entwined?
you have to ride a dragon?
No.
Like, that's very upsetting.
But like, where do they get this? Well, I mean, the whole idea of Valyria is upsetting.
Yeah.
So like, where else? Where would they get these bombs? And it involves whips and everything.
I will point out that again, there were like, we're all familiar with like the porno tapestries all over Red Keep before Alicent redecorates.
Yeah, it's dragon and people threesomes.
Yeah, only in Viserys chambers though. All the other ones are just like people.
People
And then in Viserys
threesomes.
chamber, it's dragons and people, which is pretty special.
I personally favor magical gene splicing and blood magic, but the prospect of dragon human porn gets me excited. Please write that, George.
Oh my god. I also think gene splicing. I think that, and this is my sort of tinfoil, but I really do think that like the dragon riders had some kind of like genetic modification to allow them to approach the dragons and bond with them in the way that they do, and I think that that's why we get these very specific birth defects, right? That we've seen multiple times over multiple generations. I mean, I wonder, like, I haven't given all this much thought to it, but I wonder, like, how those miscarriages, if those miscarriages coincide with, a wave of hatchings or a wave of new dragons, like whether sort of like this periodic renewal of this blood bond. But I don't know.
Or maybe like as time goes on, the less viable they are, or the less powerful as Targaryens as they are, or the more assimilating that they do, they just come out wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that is the general consensus George wrote into the world.
They're weaker.
Blood of the dragon is to be taken literally.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest indications of that for me, besides the birth defects, is the immunity to sickness that they seem to all share until the later generations. When it's like shocking that one of Harris and Alsan's babies dies of, or kids dies of fever, right? That they're like, what? That's not supposed to happen. But, so she sends, Rhaenyra sends the two boys off to off as envoys. At Storm's End, Luke arrives. He lands in the forecourt and, in a flash of lightning, finds that Vhagar is illuminated against the sky and just bloody massive. But he goes in to the court with his message, and Aemond is there. Aemond demands that Luke cut out his own eye and present it to him so that he can take it as a gift to his mother. We get the reveal of Aemon's sapphire eye, which I don't totally understand because he then like puts the patch right back on. So unless he's doing it for just this like dramatic flourish every once in a while, I don't really totally understand what he's doing with that. But anyway, Boris says, not in my hall, and sends them both off. Luke leaves first. He says comforting words to Arax, who is freaking out, understandably, in the courtyard. They take off into the midst of a giant storm, struggling to fly, only to find that Vhagar is looming above them. Arax tries to outrun Vhagar, and both boys seem sort of increasingly agitated, as does Arax, who eventually spits fire into Vhagar's face. Vhagar ignores Aemon's attempts to control or de-escalate the situation, refuses to listen to his commands no, and his tugging on her saddle, and she bites Arax and Luke, I would say in half, but that's like generous in terms of fractions. There is very little left, and Aemond watches in horror as little chunks of the two flutter down to earth. Daemon delivers the news to Rhaenyra, who turns to the fire and turns back with grief and fury etched on her face. And that is the end of the season, boys and girls.
Do you guys have any idea, just going back to Storm's End, if Rhaenyra knew how much of a dick Boris Baratheon is or was?
I don't think so.
The man can't even read.
Yeah, he can't read. He's like, where's that fucking maester?
Yeah, he's
That
gonna
was
be a
such
loser.
a fucking Chad Baratheon move.
It really was.
Yeah. I feel like they interrupted his football game and his scratching and his Bud Light drinking.
Like, would have it been a better move for Rhaenyra to be like, okay, I know that, yeah, they swore his dad. He'll remember, what his dad said, but you know what? Let's just sweeten the pot a bit.
Yeah, the fact that she sent him with absolutely no bargaining power beyond here's something your dad did back in the day, which, if there's anything that the heirs like to be reminded of, it's, being held accountable for the choices that their fathers made before they died. I think we've learned that in this universe time and again. So they're always happy to honor the choices that their ancestors made and enjoy being reminded of those choices at all times, particularly the Lannisters.
Yeah, I think we're all surprised by what a jerkass this guy is, and I really wanna see him die now.
So happy, so waiting for the muddy mess so much now.
Yeah. I don't even know how that would have gone well if Aemond hadn't been there.
Right. He didn't even need to be there. That was just completely going to be a fail either way.
Yeah.
I mean, Aemon wanted to be there. He wanted that. He's trying to be like his uncle, right? Yeah, his uncle. I will say, though, I liked that Boros Baratheon's lines were almost verbatim what they were in the book. And I don't know if you guys listened to the Ian Glenn narration of it, but he delivers those lines so well. And this actor did a really great job, too.
He did.
It was so good. Get out, pup.
All growly, surly.
I don't know why they didn't think that somebody wouldn't be there. And it didn't even have to be Vhagar and Aemond. Like, could have been literally anyone, and he would have been screwed. Like, no, he's not a good fighter. We learned that at the beginning of this episode when Jace kicked his ass. Like, he's just this
Which was just mean.
kid. I know.
Way to bully
Jace
your little
got-
brother.
Like, yeah, he got a little bit salty in his late adolescence, I feel. I don't like the way his character has developed.
Well, again, I don't think anyone was expecting these simple messengers to be attacked in such a brutal fashion.
I mean, I know we can't really
No.
blame Luke for, the position that he was in, but I think, like, at the moment when Boris was like, well, what do you got to give me, pup, and all that, I was just kind of hoping he'd say, you know what, let me take that back to my mom and let me get back with you. Like, just anything to get out of there.
I agree. He did. I think he held himself very well. He would do well
Yes.
in court.
Yes, absolutely. Guess we'll never know, though.
Oh, no.
Do we
Well,
think
see now.
Do we think that Aemond intended to kill him? I mean, I know he was shocked when it actually happened, but like, do you think that he even thought that was a possibility? Do you think he was just like he was just fucking around and found out? Like,
I think he maybe wasn't intending to kill him, but wouldn't minded if he killed him. But I just don't think he expected his dragon to act against his will and kill him as well, and the dragon as well.
That's a really good observation. Yeah, I feel like maybe that was like he was more shook that Vhagar completely ignored him. Yeah.
I mean, because nobody's seen a dragon kill a dragon in how long?
I feel like that's where his shock came
Valerian
from.
killed Quicksilver.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One method of interpreting his actions is he was down when Vhagar's mouth is opening and about to get Arax to kill him. And then once Arax escapes into the ridge, he's like, "Oh no, it was just a prank. It was just a prank. I was just trying to psych you out." And then he actually genuinely was like, "Hey, maybe I shouldn't have killed him. That would have been a stupid idea." And then, bam, fire in the face, and Vhagar's crazy. I don't know if I believe that, but
I feel like it was, the kind of thing that I don't know why this is my point of reference. We see in like, movies in the 50s where it's like, let's jolly each other into a drag race and like, oh no, the car spun out and that guy died. Like, where you're like, any reasonable person could see that this was like a likely to almost guaranteed outcome. But in the moment, like you're not thinking about the outcome. You're just thinking about like the immediate circumstances. I don't know. It just,
I mean,
this was Russian roulette with 5 out of the 6 chambers loaded. It was crazy.
It was straight up playing hood rat games. You're gonna get those prizes.
Yeah.
Like, for sure. Yeah. And I think he was more surprised that Vhagar was not listening to him and he was not in control.
Yeah.
And these are the things that happen when you're not in control.
Because he's been such a cocky shithead ever since he got that dragon, because clearly having the biggest dragon was like an extension of himself, right? And like,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. And the idea that like, in fact, no, it's actually still a dragon, and like it barely even knows that you're up there. Like, I don't know. That's kind of a rude awakening for sure. Nephew
Can't wait to hear
chomping.
that explanation.
Yeah, yeah.
I would
What a,
like to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say, what a quiet ride back to King's Landing.
Silent. No
Oh
one's
my
speaking.
god.
It might as well be in Essos, King's
Oh,
Landing. I mean, that is a long ass ride.
I do really like. There's no part of me that hasn't fully fallen for the dementia Vagar, or at least there's like cranky old woman Vagar, right, where she's basically like the Queen of Thorns of dragons. And like I'm totally here for that. I mean, dire consequences notwithstanding. Like,
There's actually a meme of that with
I
her.
know, I know. Tell
Yeah.
them it was
It's,
me.
tell
I
them it was
want them to
me.
know.
I wanted to know it was me.
Yeah, but she just has like so much of that energy for me, and she has like from the very start. And I love how they have given these dragons personalities. Like, I mean, we see Caraxes backing Daemon, his weird little click whistles, and when he confronts the Kingsguard for their loyalty. And it's just, I don't know, it's just such a great dimension.
all the unique dragon sounds
Yeah.
too. Like, it's not like, oh, let's just make them sound like dinosaurs or something. It's like they all have very unique sounds, almost like a cat or a dog might have a different kind of bark or
Absolutely. Like, that the body
um
language that they have, and yeah, it's also singular, and so unique is really cool.
I wanted to say I thought as soon as Jace, or no, not Jace, Luke, right?
Lucerys, we just watched him get
Yeah,
eaten.
Lucerys. As soon as him and Eric's broke up into the clouds above the storm, and you get that almost peaceful moment before Vagar and Aemond come up. That shot of them flying around and him just looking, and you see nothing but a sea of clouds. And then even when Vagar and Aemond come and Vagar just munches it, to me that is the epitome of how you should understand like Targaryens and Valyria, and like why they are so much more than the men of Westeros, so to speak.
Yeah, that they can literally just fly out of the world,
like-
essentially. Like, yeah.
Right. It's like piloting a very maneuverable spaceship,
Spaceship!
essentially, with a nuclear weapon attached.
I reveled in a moment akin to that, or at least that it was akin to that for me earlier in the season during the egg confrontation when Caraxes shows up and then Rhaenyra rolls up with Syrax, and it's just dragon versus dragon, and everyone else kind of just disappears and ceases to matter. But I did not get that feeling when she flew up on Otto this time, and I could not tell you what was different in the energy or like what they changed to make me feel that way. But like it felt more hollow, or like I guess maybe you knew she wasn't actually going to use the dragon, so it was so clearly like showmanship rather than like an actual threat or an actual, I don't know. There was something about it that made me sad because it was such a clear callback to that other moment, but it was so like divested of the power.
I think it might fall flat only because shit, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. I think it falls flat because in this moment it's not triumphant like the last moment she had with Otto on that bridge. The callback, it's almost trying to show you how it's not the same sort of success she had in that one.
I think overall, just especially compared to last week and how we saw how the Greens handled Viserys' death, the Blacks just seemed very disorganized and kind of confused. And again, with Syrax and Nira, that move just seemed so impotent, to where just such a vast difference in that. And I don't know if it's just finally seeing it in live action and that's how it is, or the writers are just writing them that way.
The blacks or the greens?
Blacks.
In the black faction.
Yeah.
lacking the fire, lacking the defiance.
Yes,
It's orchestrated to an obvious extent, and yeah, there's some intangible way to describe it.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I think that's fascinating because I one of the things that I really enjoyed about last episode is how clearly all of the cogs in the machine were functioning. And like even when
Absolutely.
Alicent and Otto were kind of going head to head, like there were clearly like pieces that were being moved around the board and everyone had intentions and strategies and plans, and they did so much so quickly with human resources effectively, right? Like that they didn't have this superpower, whereas like even Rainey's like busting through the floor and having this kind of ultimate advantage coming to nothing, it sort of reinforces that, where it's like they did on some levels so much with so little so quickly, and the blacks have like all of these dragons and all of this power, and they just got totally swept, right? Like I don't know. Yeah,
Certainly how it felt for me. Sure.
I did like sad Damon on the beach, and I think that's one of the like it was such a moment, and you couldn't tell if it was rage or despair or grief or sort of some combination of all of those. And I think that was another reason that I reacted so strongly to the confrontation with Rhaenyra afterwards. That like it was such a nuanced response, and then all of a sudden just like not anymore. I don't know.
Apparently, there was much more to that scene, I believe, that they cut off and kind of added to the Damon frustration of these cut scenes still showing, all these aspects of his character that are just kind of like lost now.
Yeah.
On top of that, when Lena died and, him not embracing his daughters and all of those things, it's just kind of like all these easy losses that, we could have really showed in Damon and they're kind of missed opportunities or whatnot.
Yeah, I do. I feel like Matt Smith is investing every single moment with so much. I mean, like every time you see his face, there's clearly like 17 things going on right behind his eyes, like that his brain is always going and he's always thinking and he's always planning and reacting, and yet so often says nothing, which is just such a fascinating
His face acting and body acting is so on par.
Do we want to end with any predictions, big or small, for next season? I mean, I think we've seen that they stick pretty closely to like the main events, but any twists or adaptations like we saw with Vagar going rogue or anything like that, where you think they'll play in the margins and do something unexpected, or just anything you're looking forward to?
I predict that this is a super minor thing, that Blood and Cheese is obviously happening in the next season, probably episode 1 in my rendition. I would suggest that Helena is going to die a lot quicker than usual. So she will probably expire in season 2, just because you want to have it happen while it's as emotionally potent as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you think she might even die? Like,
I think she'll jump from some tall tower or something, but it will be within season 2, while it's fresh
yeah.
in people's
I will be
minds.
upset if it's the masturbation window. I feel like that window is
They
forever
need to have
ruined.
the
That's as bad as the
decency
That
prophecy.
window.
to have it somewhere
The window
else.
is
Wasn't that window been through enough?
window is forever unclean.
The masturbation window of
Oh my
prophecy.
God.
It's been defiled.
I know. I've been very focused on Blood and Cheese because it's such a like traumatic thing, and I talked about this a little bit in the last episode that like I kind of my trust has been a little bit restored, that like maybe they won't just purposely break us all with that moment. But um I have a sense after watching episode 10 that Blood and Cheese will spiral out of control as human agents in a way akin to what we saw with the dragons in this episode. And I don't know whether I think it hinges on some pretty serious character decisions, most of which involve Daemon. And now I'm like very unstable as to like what they're doing, or uncertain as to what they're doing with him. But yeah, I don't like for him to actually command the details of what happens. It just feels like a bridge too far for me. So I really do think like we'll get a sense that when you play games and you use agents, whether those agents are reptilian or human, like you truly as soon as it leaves your hands, it's out of your hands, right? And things will just continue to spiral out of control.
One potential avenue that I could see that happening in is Missaria is probably not too happy with the Green faction now after they promised to look into the fighting pits and they instead burned down her mansion to try and kill
Oh yeah, they
her.
set her on fire. Yeah.
So and Daemon reaches out to Missaria to make this happen. So maybe she'll put her own spin on it.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, that may very well be
Hopefully.
where the breakdown happens. Yeah.
And that kind of builds on the whole, really what I was thinking. Like, what are they going to do about blood and cheese now? We've seen this what happened with Aemond, and they framed it as kind of like an accident. Are they going to completely like change the blood and cheese scene for that to kind of get out of hand? And it's all about escalations, and nobody's really that bad or doing things on purpose. And this is kind of the whole overall theme.
There is another opportunity for that to be another loss of agency, the way that we've sort of been complaining about, like Alicent losing her personal motivation and instead having the prophecy, and then like Aemond not being, or being less a sociopath and more just like a kid who can't control the tools that he has at his disposal. And whether it becomes another, not quite a pulled punch, but like an equivocation, like a moral equivocation, I think is maybe the best way I can put it.
Yeah, and I think that would be probably my blanket complaint with this first season is just how much the decisions they do make sometimes really do pay off, but then other decisions they're trying to play too much into the ambiguity of it, but still show us something like physical or structural.
Mhm.
It's almost like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too,
I
in
agree.
terms of ambiguity of characters.
Yeah, I agree.
I hope, and with the way things start to turn, especially Rhaenyra's character, I feel like it would get harder and harder for them to stay on that kind of balance. And I wonder if this season wasn't partially intended to set us up, expect that kind of equivocation or that kind of like moral gray areas, and then as it gets sort of blacker and blacker on both, or I guess blacker and greener on both sides, that it becomes that much more stressing because we started off on this like, well, it's not really anybody's fault, and mistakes were made, and I don't know. I think that's one way that it could go, like that this whole series or season was just a setup for us to like really see them get down and dirty as it goes on.
That's certainly my gripe. Just like what Zander mentioned, I think they're over nuancing everything. They're kind of overdoing it and trying to step away. I understand, nobody was really there except, who else was in the air? Who could have known how it happened? But I just, sometimes straight up villainy has its uses. Sometimes it actually is the best way to go. And I think it's just getting all mucked up. And the possibility of mucking up entirely.
Is that a narrative philosophy, Elle, or a life philosophy?
Both.
Yes.
Sometimes straight up villainy has its uses.
Both.
Nice.
I feel like the writers were almost maybe a little scared, or perhaps wisely scared. They didn't want to lose the audience in the season one. They wanted to make sure we were committed to these various characters to some degree. And that's what I hope that as you go on. As you say, they have to get blacker and greener in terms of their characterization. There's not a lot of room for ambiguity right at the end.
And I really think, at that point, people have probably kind of made up their minds already who the greens are right, the blacks are right. I think at that point, people are going to, now that we've seen season one, are probably going to be more settled, and more so, when it starts getting blacker and greener, people are going to start drawing the line.
I mean, the lines are pretty sharply drawn already. That was something that really kind of surprised me about this season, is how like vitriolic the fan base got so quickly. Like not against the show, but like against each other in terms of like the black and the green factionality.
I think that's because of the nuance.
I think so too.
That happened strictly because of the ambiguity and how they were writing this thing, and it actually made it like overly safe, kind of vanilla, in a lot of ways.
You think so? I think it's cool.
That's exactly what I wanted to say, is they were trying to play it. They just played it a little too safe in this first season.
Yes, absolutely.
I just think it's like, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't even know that they've like started writing the next season yet. And I hope that whatever intention they had with this isn't overly reshaped by the feedback for this season, because I think part of what made this so compelling was that you could really watch it unfold and see how it was unfolding organically from within. If it starts to feel more like fan service or more like, fan directed or whatever, like I think that's going to be really disappointing. But I do have faith in these writers based on what we've seen so far, that like they're really invested in this material and they're invested in like the long game, which is really cool, I think.
It's nice to see that they are planting the seeds, that they are invested in the long game. It's really nice to know that.
Certainly invested more in this material than I was. And again,
Agreed.
that's what I would say for the season. They took characters that I either didn't care about or really didn't like, and they made them so much more interesting than I would ever have imagined. So good on them.
Yeah, it's like it really was a best case scenario in that way, I think, because you could have made it a documentary, right? And I mean, I obviously like spending as much money as they did and putting it on HBO, like that was probably never really a possibility, but like, yeah, I think the way that they have enhanced what they're working with has just been artful in the visual sense, in the performance sense, in the writing sense, in the narrative sense. Like I mean, I really think they just knocked it out of the park with this one, and I'm just really excited to have experienced the season with you guys, and not looking forward to the 2-year hiatus before we get more. I want more.
Year and a half. We can do it if it's a year and a half.
We could just do like an obsessive reread like we did with it, we're just like, well, let's watch them in chronological order, and then let's watch them in like Black's episodes and Green's episodes, and then let's watch them in like backwards, like let's watch all the Daemon scenes and talk about them, and then we can watch all the Allison scenes and talk about those.
Let's read the book upside down and then rewatch the episodes from the end to the beginning.
Exactly. Let's
we got to provide the
wait 6
content
months
everybody
and
wants.
try and narrate as much of it as we can without looking. This is really awesome, and for sure 5 out of 5 lemon cakes overall for me for the season. What do you guys think for the overall season? Are there enough gripes to
I really don't want to
give it that 5 out of 5.
Yeah, me too.
Just for the surprise, the wow.
It's purely emotional for sure. Mostly emotional reasons why I would do 5 out of 5.
Yeah, agreed. I definitely think this whole first season was just 5 out of 5. Even if we take out that source material that we all know, I think it was just a fantastic season of television in general. It'll probably go down in history as one of the best, especially with HBO behind it. As HBO has proved for the last 30 years, they can make great original content.
Oh, I hope they sweep at the Emmys. And I'm not just talking about Patty and Emma. Like, I hope that the costume designers I hope that the, visual editing gets it.
Everything, visual effects, set designers, costumes, location managers,
casting,
everything.
For God's sake. Like, oh my God.
Casting should win everything.
Like the side-by-sides.
I've never seen a more perfectly casted
like the
show.
Side-by-sides of, expressions of young Allison and older Allison, or like young Rhaenyra and older. I mean, it's astonishing how the mannerisms and the, the facial structure and the behavioral, I don't know. I mean, it's absolutely, and none of it felt stilted or forced. Like it feels natural on both sides of it. And I really can't say enough good things about the show. And I went into it very trepidatious and just sort of not expecting too much, I hope. But all my expectations and then some, for sure.
Absolutely. Do we have any more closing thoughts on the episode, the future, the books? Anyone want to plug any upcoming VOK episodes, anything like that?
No, I don't know what we're gonna do now. We got Sunday nights free,
Yeah,
and
honestly.
Mondays free, and no editing, and not that I ever do that because I'm wildly incompetent. But
which thank you, Bina.
Thank you, Bina. We love you. But yeah, I think one of the best things for me, and I think I mentioned this once already, but it has just been like being able to talk with you guys about this stuff again. Like reread was super fun, and I don't know, the last seasons of Game of Thrones were just kind of like meh. But yeah, I feel like the energy is back, and it's just been super exciting and just really fun. So thanks HBO for pulling it out.
Absolutely.
Thanks HBO.
Okay, man, this was fun. You guys are great. within our community. It really feels great. We found something special, and the pandemic, oddly enough, only strengthened us. And then now we get back to new Game of Thrones material. So it's really been a blast. I'm super blessed with all you guys. I love it. All right, and with that, that was Wolfcast covering the final episode of the first season of House of the Dragon. You can find us. Our main hub is on Discord. Pretty much just Google Vassals of Kingsgrave. You guys want to close out with an Naru?
Ready?
Rhaenyra was a pretty princess, and she was the realm's delight. And her dad did declare that she was his heir, and the Iron Throne was her birthright. But Queen Emma died in childbirth. The king soon took another wife. Now Alicent wants her son on the throne, and it's left the realm in strife. Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and the greens, 'cause Emma Arryn didn't have a son. Now the swords will flash and the targs will clash to the echo of a dragon song. Now Rhaenyra married Leonor, but he preferred the brown and not the pink. She had 3 strong sons, not a silver hair on one, so Harlan Strong's the sire, everybody thinks. Now Alicent gave the king more children, and Aegon was the eldest son. Soon the princess and the queen became the blacks against the greens, and the dance of the dragon soon begun. Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and the greens, 'cause Emma Arryn didn't have a son. Now the swords will flash and the targs will clash to the echo of a dragon song. Now the king, he has a brother, the dragon rider Prince Daemon. The first wife he stoned and the second one was burned, but he wasn't left alone very long. For he is a true Targaryen, they like to keep it in the family. When not riding Syraxes, then he's riding on his niece, a rogue prince forever he shall be. Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and the greens, 'cause Emma Arryn didn't have a son. Now the swords will flash and the targs will clash to the echo of a dragon song. Oh, it's all kicking off between the blacks and the greens, 'cause Emma Arryn didn't have a son. Now the swords will flash and the targs will clash to the echo of a dragon song.
We want to hear the lyrics, or did people just Google it?
Are you asking us
Yes.
or the listener?
I'm asking you. I'm not talking to anybody else.
Wait, I know. Sheesh, hold on. You posted it. Let me.
Yeah, I have them up if we want to hear them. But
Oh yeah,
I'll
go for it
listen,
then.
but only if you sing them to me, Sarah.
oh,
Yeah.
in High Valyrian.
Oh yeah, you gotta
I
sing.
will
Yeah.
not do that unless it's like to the tune of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or some shit.
Wait,
and I feel
wait,
like we would just
no,
lose
no.
listeners if I did that. So
Sing it like Tom Bombadil sings.
there's not a frame of reference that I can access with any kind of ready availability. Like I'm vaguely aware.
His jacket is blue and her boots are yellow.
Oh, that's awful.
Oh my god. Maybe I can read it now and we can put it in the like after show or something like that, like as an appendix for reference. Okay, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. Yeah, do for that.
Fire breather, winged leader, but 2 heads to a third sing. From my voice, the fires have spoken, and the price has been paid with blood magic. Words of flame, with clear eyes, to bind the 3, to you I sing. As one we gather, and with 3 heads, we shall fly as we were destined, beautifully, freely. Also, like total aside, the fires have spoken and the price has been played with blood magic sounds a whole lot like Varys to me, like when they threw his junk into the talking fire.
Oh, a sacrifice of some
Right?
sort.
Yeah. Maybe that was the 3rd head. I don't know. Maybe we're coming back to the Manwoody theory here.
Varys's cock.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. It's like his ability to reproduce. I don't like the direction this is taking, frankly.